right. Good morning, good evening to everyone, whoever is watching this video from whichever part of the world. It's totally going to be a very fascinating episode. I'm very intrigued by doing this episode myself because of the kind of opinions and thought process that people have surrounding this issue. Okay, the issue we all know, and I'm going to talk about that, is the Usman Tariq action issue. Now let's look a little bit deeper into this whole suspect action or illegal action or chucking or however you want to term it. Let's look a little deeper into it for answers. Way back in 2014, 2009, and even before that, there have been incidences of people with suspect action being reported and then eventually tested, and some of them being banned and some of them being cleared. Now, what is a suspect action? A suspect action is a position where the elbow bends and then it straightens for a significant advantage. For example, when a bowler loads, this is the loading point. Every bowler will load, like the spinner, fast bowler, they'll load it. It's bent here and then it goes behind through and then it straightens eventually here. Obviously, you can't see my palm here, but in several cases, the bowlers can have a bent elbow, okay? Now, a bent elbow alone doesn't mean that the person's action is illegal. If this bend eventually moves on to a straightening, when there's a jerk and a straightening, that is when it is illegal. How much is it bent and how much is it straightening? And that's where the illegality of a bowling action truly begins. In several cases, the bend can remain like this and the bowler can bowl the ball like this, the bowler can flick the ball and the bend is not straightening. A bent arm is still advised or still understood to be a legal action only when this bend is used for a distinct advantage by straightening it to get a sort of a catapult action on the ball is when that particular action can be termed illegal. Let's go back in time further. Once upon a time, there was no rule, there was not a rule that suggested any particular degrees of bend, okay? And there was an instance in Australia where an umpire called a bowler on field. He called the delivery a no ball. I mean, a square leg umpire is allowed to look at the action and call it on field. Ever since that episode, you don't see umpires calling bowlers' action illegal on the field by calling it a no ball. Are they allowed to do so? I probably think they are. But why aren't they doing it then? Because the ICC, when they tested these bowlers' actions and several other bowling actions, they said, okay, let's allow a margin for this. To keep it ramrod straight will be difficult because there could be some deformity. For some people, the elbow could be slightly bent. Even if they try to straighten it, it won't. So let's have a small aspect of the bowler's elbow bending up until 15 degrees. Ever since this 15-degree rule was introduced, the on-field umpire just stopped calling bowlers on field. They never called a bowler for a no ball. Maybe there could be one or two cases here and there in domestic games or elsewhere where they've called a no ball, suspecting a bowler of an illegal action. Why did the international umpires or umpires governing a televised game or a match referee has refrained from calling a bowler is because to ascertain whether the elbow is bent more than 15 degrees with the naked eye without the support of technology or video footages is not next to impossible. It is impossible. So if somebody calls it, it will be in a vague amount of guess. Now, the next layer of problem for an umpire is he needs to report the action saying this action is suspect for me, and then it will be called upon for testing, and then the testing results will come and the bowler will be advised whether he has to take remedial course or which part of his delivery is okay and not okay. For an umpire to report an action suspect, he must have a clear vision. In all of these cases, I talk about something called as a precedence. How do we correct things from the past? We correct it on the basis of historical evidence, and then we make changes or we make ramifications in terms of correcting a certain scenario. Now, in the case of suspect action, over the years, all bowlers, mind you, all bowlers have consistently used a full sleeve on their arm. What happens when you use a full sleeve? The sleeve can sag and make it not look clear for the umpire on the field to be able to judge. Despite that, several occasions, the umpires have reported suspect actions in the past. even in recent IPL scenarios, there have been actions that have been reported, and in many cases, surprisingly, the bowler has been able to return to play very quickly. Now, this is where the issue is. For example, how do you train when you're young? You're always taught in every academy or any organization or any structured cricket organization. They teach you to bowl with a straight legal action and not bend your arm. I train a lot of young kids as well. It is a common problem with some of the young children. They want to produce more force because they don't have enough strength in their shoulders. They end up pinging the ball a bit. So you have to teach them, correct the technique, and eventually it pans out to becoming an okay. The action tends to be okay. Now, when you come to certain scenarios of suspect action, there are two types of bowlers that emerge. One who he or she consistently trains to have a legal action right from the childhood and then gets onto the high performing environment. And then two is someone with a suspect action, illegal kind of delivery stride, illegal kind of arm or whatever it is. They train the same way to get to that particular stage. This actually needs to be weeded out very young because these two people will compete in an environment that's not balanced. Ideally, the legality of the action should always have, the authorities must have that in the forefront of their mind that it is going to give them a competitive edge. Now, very simply, I'm going to put this case in point. Like, for example, I'm just giving you a small example. Let's say a house gets burgled, okay? We live in India, there has been a burglary in your house, and you complain to the officials or the police station that my house has been burgled. What happens? The police comes, they check the places, they take fingerprints, and then eventually they start suspecting people who have been involved in burglaries in that particular localities over the years. The problem with people who have suspect actions is that under pressure, how much ever you correct their actions, how much ever you make changes and devise laboratory studies and give them the right impetus, once their action is suspect and it is over 15 degrees, under pressure, they will go back to their older methods because that is how they have trained. Now, what is the solution then? Let's come to Usman Tariq, okay? Whether Usman Tariq's action is legal or illegal is something I cannot pass a judgment, and that's what I'm again and again holding on to in my arguments, even on social media. The decision on Usman Tariq's action can be only ascertained or obtained once he is reported, and the ICC, even recently, Matthew Kuhneman cleared his action with the laboratory in Brisbane, and he is coming and playing the World Cup now. So you go to an umpire needs to firstly report Usman Tariq, and then he needs to head to the ICC testing facility where his action will be tested under different duress. Now, he can go to the laboratory and bowl with a straight arm and get away with it, right? There is a possibility for that to happen. So what is the solution? The only solution for this is to have real-time testing during a game, okay? Real-time testing. Firstly, anybody with the suspect action who's been reported should be banned from using a full sleeve while bowling. Point number one. Point number two is he or she must be given a device or some sort of. We live in a very advanced tech society now, right? And we should be able to surely find a device that will help us ascertain real-time game numbers. For example, the bowler who's got a suspect action is most susceptible when he or she gets hit and is under duress in a game. The following deliveries will have to be scrutinized very, very heavily. Now, just moving on from there, Usman Tariq's elbow or whatever, a lot of people are saying it doesn't look aesthetically nice. Aesthetically pleasing is not how we make the judgment. We make the judgment purely on the case of whether there is suspicion in his elbow bending and straightening, and that can be seen by the umpire. It has to be reported, and then he needs to be tested. And there have been cases in the past where the testing results have said the bowler's off break is suspect, the bowler's faster one is suspect. Now, if that is suspect, you can't tell the bowler, don't bowl the faster ball, don't bowl the off break. What happens under pressure? Let's just assume the last over of an ICC T20 World Cup final, the bowler who's had suspect action is delivering that over to win the World Cup for his team. You let me know in the comment section, will that bowler go back to his old methods or not if there is no real-time testing in a game situation? It makes it really complex. Unless and until real-time footages are analyzed, this is going to be a problem that we can't get rid of. Should we get rid of it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the playing field has to be level. Even now, Cameron Green, when he played in Pakistan and he found it difficult to face Usman Tariq, he did say that he pinged. But when you go and see the deliveries, he bowls a carom ball, he bowls a googly, those deliveries just seem fine. He takes a pause. From there to produce a lot of force becomes extremely difficult. So for him, if he needs to produce a faster ball, if he needs to bowl a delivery that's quick, and if you do see, every time he's been hit for a boundary, he does bowl a quick ball. That ball, under duress, is where it needs to be tested. And even then, I cannot ascertain without the testing results when not only me, nobody is, it is not okay within the purviews to judge somebody's action without the testing results. Now for the next one, aesthetically pleasing batsmen have scored runs in the game of cricket. Aesthetically not so pleasing batsmen have also scored runs, right? So aesthetically pleasing is not a judgment parameter at all. Lastly, we are talking about the pause. And a lot of people have come out saying, I'm supporting because I also used to pause and bowl. The reason why I started pausing, let's understand this. When T20 cricket was introduced, within those grey areas, let me make this again and again very clear. I am not bending the rules, or Usman Tariq isn't. It is well within those rules, and a bowler's creativity should be allowed to exploit every single part of that rule. If you pause, the batsman's waiting, the batting downswing can change. His usual modus operandi of batting or setup has to be adjusted, and that's why anything different at the delivery crease takes the batsman by surprise. And that could very well have happened with Cameron Green. So my point is, Usman Tariq's pause, they're saying the pause was banned when I bowled those deliveries. When I did bowl the delivery in the Champions Trophy, it wasn't banned. Later on, the context of that ban of the pause at the crease was that my usual action is different to when I pause at the crease, and hence it's causing a problem, and I will not be allowed to do that. And I was told it in clear words. We can argue till the cows come home, and I'm okay. I didn't pause very many times after that. But in the case of Usman Tariq, even that is null and void because his action only is with a pause. You can't go and tell him you can't pause because every ball is the same. Every ball he pauses. So where can be a rider in this? The rider here is if the batsman says, I thought he stopped at the bowling crease, so I'm withdrawing away from taking a ball, then the umpire's got a task cut out. If let's just say tomorrow he goes into bowl and the batsman pulls away, the umpire has a task of warning either the bowler or the batter. The easiest thing for an umpire would be to tell the bowler, I'm warning you. The ideal case is to warn the batter. The game, especially the T20 format, has moved along so much that the rule conventions of the game itself needs to start accommodating these changes day in and day out. A simple rule case in point being a DRS review. When it's been given out and it's overturned, the ball is considered to be dead and the run's not given, but that ball is a dot ball. These can result in game-changing moments. It can result in game-changing moments, right? So the rules and conventions also need to be able to change. If we need legalities of the action to jump in, the governing body needs to take a very stern action on it. There is another point. ICC is the governing body in this case. But whereas in some of the other private leagues, the ICC is not the governing body. So some bowlers can get away in the private leagues by having inquiry committees that are run by the leagues alone. If the entire game needs to be protected from dodgy actions, the ICC should jump in and monitor every single action, and only ICC testing centers and ICC ratified testing committees are allowed to pass a judgment on that. And no bowler, let me repeat, can correct an action within a span of days or months and get back to playing. If an action is found to be suspect, if there needs to be changes, correction suggested, just like how it happens in cases of injuries, the bowler must take a 1-year hiatus at the very least, correct his action, play in domestic cricket, get the tick certificate, get the certification of approval, slowly, step by step, start following back into international cricket. And that's the only way this is going to change. And lastly, the real-time testing is the final nail in the coffin. So these are just my views. You can obviously leave your views in the comment section. But I certainly do believe people with suspect actions definitely need to be corrected, addressed. Otherwise, we are going to produce a lot of children who are going to think these actions are okay and come up with illegal actions as we see this game move ahead, because bowlers For bowlers, the game is getting very hard and they're going to try and take every single advantage they can. So we need to be very, very wary of it. As always, reading all your comments, please drop in your comments.